I am your friend, Dr. Charles Apoki. I want to look at the 5 generational rule vis-a-vis prosperous families and dysfunctional families. There are families that have maybe 3 or 4 branches, and then you will see one lineage will not be doing well, and another lineage in the same big family will be doing well. In a community, you will see some families doing well, and other families not doing well. I want to look at 5 generational rule that affects families and how you can shape your children to the 5th generation. I want to start by looking at the family of Jonathan Edwards. Jonathan Edwards lived between 1703 and 1758. He died quite early because he had immunization for smallpox, and he reacted to it and died. Jonathan Edwards was the president of Princeton College. He married Sarah Edwards in 1727. He entered Princeton University. He entered Yale University at the age of 13. We're talking about 17 something at the age of 13. He was very, very brilliant. So he had good genes. Sarah that he married was from a lineage of pastors, Puritan pastors, that pastors of holiness and righteousness. So up to 4 or 5 generations of Sarah's family were pastors. Jonathan Edwards' father was also a Puritan, a pastor. Jonathan Edwards preached a message titled "Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God," and people were gripped with the fear of hell that men were collapsing and women were hysterical. He feared God and loved God. Same thing with his wife. Now, after 150 years, somebody called Winship, A.B. Winship, did a study to trace the descendants of Jonathan Edwards compared to the descendants of a man called Max Jukes. When they did the genealogy of Jonathan Edwards, they found out that he had one U.S. vice president called Aaron Burr. He had one dean of a law school as his descendant. He had one dean of a medical school as his descendant. He had 3 U.S. senators, 3 governors, 3 mayors, 13 college professors, 13 college presidents. Remember, he was a college president, college year like university. He was a college president. 13 of his descendants were also college presidents. He had 30 judges, 60 medical doctors, 65 professors as his descendants. And then he had 75 military officers. He had 80 public office holders. He had 100 lawyers from his family, his descendants. And then 100 clergymen who descended from Jonathan Edwards. Remember, his wife's father, grandfather, I think great-grandfather were pastors. His father was a pastor. He had 285 college graduates. And then they said, why did this happen? Number one, he was a godly man. Number two, he was a very hardworking man. He wrote so many materials, books. He was an intelligent person. At 13, he was already in a university. He was morally sound. But the researcher found out that much of the capacity and the talent and the intensity and character of the family of more than 1,400 Edwards were firmly due to Mrs. Edwards, the wife. 1,400 descendants. The character of the wife contributed a great deal. Jonathan Edwards had 11 children with Sarah Edwards. Jonathan Edwards would prophesy over his children. Every day he spent 1 hour to speak with them. Every time he spent 1 hour to speak with them. So let's take these things gradually. Number one, he came from a godly background. His wife came from a godly background. They were Puritans, that is, they believed in holiness and righteousness. The next thing was that he devoted time to his family. He was hardworking. He was morally sound. And his wife was a strict disciplinarian and was a very godly wife. Those are the characteristics of the Jonathan Edwards family. Then they did a study of another man called Max Jukes in the same city. This was done by somebody called L. Dugdale in 1877. They found out that out of 42 different men in New York prisons, they belonged to his family. 75 were murderers out of his 120 descendants. 60 were thieves. 190 were prostitutes. 150 were other convicts. And 310 were paupers. 440 of them were physically wrecked by addiction to alcohol, and 300 of them died prematurely. Now, here is the principle of the 5-generation rule. It says that how a parent raises their children, or how a parent raises their children, I don't know if that grammar is correct, through the love they give, through the values they teach, the emotional environment they grow up in, and then the education they offer, will influence not only the children, but will affect 4 generations that will follow those sets of children. So, the question is, 4 generations from now, how will your children look like? How will your children's children look like? When the Bible says a righteous man leaves an inheritance for his children's children, it's not houses and buildings alone. It's values, principles, practices, philosophies. So, what are you leaving in your children? You will eventually affect 5 generations of your descendants. I have children, and my children have given me grandchildren. I think that's 3 generations now. My father planted some principles in my mind: sound education, go to school, hard work, don't take another man's thing, don't sleep with another man's wife, don't commit adultery. They have stayed with me. I'm passing them over to my children and to my children's children. God help me with brilliance. My granddaughter has been coming first in all the AMPs of primary 3 in my school. All the AMPs consecutively. Because the same principles I enforced that was enforced in me, I enforced in the mother. In fact, the mother told me one time that she hated me. The same principles the mother is enforcing on the child. If she comes here, she will arrange her shoes, do everything very well. So, you find out that any branch in a family that has a broken window, remember the broken window theory, something that is wrong, you refuse to go to school, you refuse to obey your parents, you refuse to be a Christian, the likelihood is that in 5 generations from where you are, it would be disastrous if you don't mend that broken window. Think about this seriously. Google what I've said, Jonathan Edwards, and then Max, M-A-X, Jukes, Jukes. Google them. You will see what I have just said. You carry the future of 4 other generations. Ensure that you raise a good generation. I remain Dr. Charles Apoki. This is serious business. I have a webinar coming up on the 15th, is it 14th and 15th of March? However, send a message to +234 80 21 21 92 62 via WhatsApp, and the admin will send you the details. We have properties for sale. Don't be the branch that will not prosper. Be the branch that will prosper. I remain Dr. Charles Apoki. God bless you.